All right. Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started now. So I want to welcome everyone to the City Council meeting of the City of Brisbane of April 27th, 2017. Tonight we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to start with our successor agency meeting, which should be pretty brief. But first, let's have a report out from our closed session.
Council met in closed session to consider a claim from a Nicholas Uchida and voted unanimously to deny the claim.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to successor agency meeting. Okay. Roll call, please.
Please note for the record that all board members are present.
Okay, thank you. Oral communications. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on an item not on the agenda of the successor agency? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to new business. Item A, consider adoption of resolution number 2017-01 for termination of a ground lease on 3.5 plus or minus acres in Sierra Point. Staff report, please.
Madam Chair and members of the successor agency, back in the 1980s, the redevelopment agency, as it then existed, entered into a ground lease with a company called Sierra Point Associates II for a vacant parcel of land located within the Sierra Point area, about 3.5 acres. The term of the lease was 80 acres, and the rent of $2 million was prepaid to the agency at that time. The Sierra Point Associates owned adjacent land and intended for this parcel to be developed along with the adjacent parcels. Later on, Sierra Point LLC, who is now the current owner of that adjacent property, became the lessee of the property that the redevelopment agency had leased to the prior lessee. In 2012, the city entered into a development agreement with Sierra Point LLC concerning this property, and that development agreement was due to expire in 2022. In 2015, Sierra Point LLC requested an extension of that development agreement, and as part of that negotiations, Sierra Point LLC agreed to terminate its interest in this ground lease on the 3.5 acres and pay the city an additional $300,000 plus additional sums as it pulled building permits for development of its adjacent parcels. The city has agreed to extend the development agreement, took that action earlier this year, and the termination of the ground lease and the payment of money referenced above are part of that amendment. Accordingly, we have in front of you tonight the termination of that ground lease. As noted, the redevelopment agency, of course, has been dissolved, and the successor agency is now the proper party to terminate that lease. The termination of ground lease has been signed by the current lessee, and so before the council tonight is a resolution to also terminate the ground lease. By terminating the ground lease, there are certain assessments that go along with that parcel, and the city or the successor agency will be responsible for paying those assessments. But other than that, the property will be back in the successor agency's hand to determine what use of it that property might be best used for. Any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Thank you. Questions?
I have none.
No questions.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
Okay, motion to adopt resolution number 2017-01 for termination of ground lease on the 3.5 acres in Sierra Point.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Okay, item B, consider adoption of the successor agency minutes of January 5th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The successor agency meeting is now adjourned, and we're going to move immediately to the regular city council meeting. And let's start with
You just need 10 seconds to switch the
Okay.
CD.
Just wait a few seconds, please.